Let me briefly reintroduce my panelists once again. Dr. Susan Gitao, a counseling psychologist, continuing to give us her views here. Next to her, we have Melvin Mwakugu, who's been a communication strategist for the last 10 years, if not more, and has worked in different African countries. And of course, Joanne Kuria, the founder of Double X Agenda, and she ran a very interesting campaign last year, My Black is Beautiful. Lots of feedback from that campaign, and some of the ladies who participated in that campaign are here with us as well. And she tells me that I did not allow her to finish her point, so I'll give her 30 seconds, if not a minute, just to get that in before Melvin responds. Joanne, go ahead.
I have no idea what I was saying, but so the double standards. So we were saying, during the break, how the quintessential male stud is tall, dark, and handsome. A girl who's tall, dark, and pretty is not pretty for people. And so when Melvin says that society wants this, and I'm like, no, society has double standards even in its beauty. So it's so easy for men to get away with stuff like how they look than with girls. And
but the ladies decided that the tall, dark, and handsome is what their standard is, not the men.
The men should also decide that their standard is brown, chocolate, black, and everything combined.
No, the buffet that you've been talking
yes.
about.
And then we live happily ever after.
Okay. Yeah. Melvin, before the break, you also wanted to respond to some thoughts that you had?
Yeah. Practically, it's not that advertising or media is driving an agenda against dark skin, or we prefer lighter skin. I think the reality is sometimes, as I said, media is taking what truths we hold or we think seem true to us and amplify them. So if they say they like the tall, dark, and handsome, when we're looking for people to cast, we might take the tall, dark, and handsome, walks into a room, and women go, ooh. But this is what women are telling us, that this is, we're looking for a tall, dark, and handsome.
I think advertising needs to go pan-African.
Okay, okay. The discussion is much wider than this. Daktari, so how do you change these perceptions from a psychological perspective?
Yeah, and I'm very happy because...
Or we might risk having a back and forth here for the rest of the night.
It's true.
Yes.
These ones, and they're the ones we are relying on. What I would like to say is that it is important for a child, a teenager, and a young adult like them to be taken through self-awareness activities.
Why are you excluding the older generation?
Oh, yes. I'm saying this because I think we are more comfortable with who we are. Maybe 1% of our age mates are not. And it's important for the young people to know that a body image carries more than your skin tone. Because in you have all the other parts. You have your hands, you have your legs, you have your everything else, your nose. That skin color is just a part of it. And this is where I said, if they are taught and trained practically to know who they are, they don't know how we struggle, some of us who are light-skinned. Actually, I wouldn't walk in the sun, just like maybe Joanne would. I would easily get that suntan, and she will not get it. She will walk comfortably. It's important for people to know that when you look at the other person, don't imagine they are happier because somebody has told you don't look beautiful. You might be so surprised that in the same body image, there is the private part of us. And it is important for people to marry the two. I am not saying that we go around not taking care of ourselves, because everybody needs to feel confident and that high self-esteem. But more that is important is, do you accept yourself the way you look? Because if you do, statements will be made, but they will just pass by. You will remain.
Without affecting you.
Oh, yes, without affecting you.
Okay.
And a lot of emotional intelligence needed here.
All right.
Because when people say something that I don't perceive as positive about me, I need to interrogate it in the inside. I need to accept it makes me feel bad, like she did. But what do? I don't want to bleach myself, like she said. So I have nothing else but to accept myself the way I am. And
how you respond, in fact, is totally up to you.
Oh, yes, and the world starts looking at
job.
you as a beautiful woman.
Fair enough. So when I mentioned that we had solutions, lots of people here said they're ready to give us their ideas of how to move this discussion forward. We've seen that two-part series by Asha Mwilu. We've all lamented about sort of how shocked we are by that this is happening and so forth. But how are we going to take this discussion forward? So who would like to start and tell us what their thoughts are? Okay. Wow. Let's start with you and start with your name, please.
Hi, my name is Augustine. I I agree with Joanne. I think men will drive this narrative, will help to change the narrative. If we start to appreciate our ladies in their raw, natural and beautiful form, I think they will feel more confident to stay that way and not feel the need to start bleaching their skin.
Okay, all right. Let me take 3 of them before my panelists can respond. I want to go to the very back here. There you go, and begin by telling us your name, please, even as you rise.
Hello, my name is Cecilia. I think, according to me, the government in collaboration with multi-agencies should work hard towards spearheading an anti-bleaching campaign where the victims are given moral support and also building self-esteem amongst members of the public so that they can try and not make themselves better by bleaching but accept themselves as they are. Yeah.
Okay, very good point there, and an interesting one, because our East African neighbors, Rwanda, recently very tough laws on skin bleaching, and in fact, about a week ago or so, the Rwandese authorities impounded about 4 million Kenya shillings worth of bleaching products, and this has been an ongoing process, and some here feel that's the way it should go in Kenya. Okay, there's someone else who had wanted to give us their thoughts. Start with your name, please.
My name is Gregory Morangugi. Part of the solution to this is, first of all, we understand the narrative that possibly has been produced all along. First of all, our society is too patriarchal, such that we give the other gender pressure to actually fit into the narrative that we feel that possibly is good or it's beautiful. That is the first thing. The second thing is we have to understand that possibly we have all rewarded possibly the light skin, in quote. So it's a high time we start
rewarded in what ways? Give us examples.
E.g., part of the conversation that possibly maybe we are shying off to actually share is that the society will actually reward the light skinned. E.g., when I was coming for this particular conversation, somebody told me, actually, if I would become lighter and get more money, why not become lighter? That's the society where it is. If I would become more lighter and have more money, why not become lighter and possibly have the money?
And they were very serious as they
yes, and the result I would thought actually with them. Actually, you had somebody saying, maybe I would get cancer, I would deal with it, but possibly because we are not getting into touch with the reality that is happening. And I guess also as a society, we need to actually embrace these individuals. We understand at different levels, they would deal with it differently. One, if they are young, it's a question of identity. If they are a bit older, it's a question of fitting in the society. We are at an era of consumerism. That which looks beautiful, that which is packaged a bit better, is what I want. So I myself, what do I need to do to fit in the society, which actually shapes me 60%, and I shape the society 40%. So I guess we really need to check the narrative. We check how we are rewarding. We check possibly empowerment of the women fraternity holistically, not making them just reactive for nothing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Strong points that you brought out there. Maybe I get 1 or 2 more. Okay, there's one lady here. There you go. Please start by giving us your name, please.
My name is Veronica Winja. I was part of my Black is Beautiful campaign. So I've heard you, Daktari, but for me growing up, clearly I'm dark. So I think I was always the darkest in my class, or nearing the darkest. So as a child, I didn't know how to cope with it, because we had these sessions called Mchongwano, and there was always one for a dark person. And they were heavy, and they were always like, so I'd wonder what's wrong with being black. And then my mom is also very light skinned, so maybe when relatives come, they'd also have those comments for, you're dark. And as a child, I didn't think it affected me. So later in life is when I realized that I have a very low self-esteem. But then I thank God, because through him I found, and even through, because my parents encouraged me, but the society was louder than them. Because you go to school, I went to a boarding school, I went to a high school, I went to university, and the lighter girl was always preferred. Some of my very close friends are very light. So when beautiful people are being named, you hear your friends, but then you're like, yeah. So I think, again, as a parent, if you have a young child who's dark, know their thoughts about their color. Affirm them, because society will not affirm them. So affirm your child and have those conversations with them. How do you feel about your color? And then secondly, as a grown-up, it's up to me to be anchored to something, because if you always change your perception based on what society says, today society will want light, tomorrow they might want yellow, maybe purple another day, we don't know. But be anchored in who God says you are. Know yourself, know your identity, and know your worth. That's the main solution, in my opinion.
Thank you, Veronica. Thank you for sharing that with us. I want to give each of my panelists a chance to sum up their thoughts. What are their solutions? And Daktari, I'll start with you.
Yeah, mine is to go back to everybody that is watching and listening to us. Know that you have a role, all the way from the family setting, even with the siblings. If you have a dark sibling, start affirming them. If it's a parent, you did no wrong to bring out such kind of a child. If they are the teachers, just now know that it hurts the children. If it's about the media, I think we have said everything. Let's start seeing 60% of the news anchors who are dark. And the advertisement companies mix. Let's have a buffet. And for the young men that are seated there, what you've said is true. Change the narrative. You are the pace setters. I think there isn't much we can do about men leading. You can only empower us and to believe in you. And for the Africans at large, wherever we are actually beautiful and we are hardy. And the women who are bleaching themselves, I am not judging them.
Men.
And even men, eh?
Men as well.
Oh, men, come out and tell us you're bleaching and why. I would want to say that the side effects are actually more expensive than what you're trying to show. And for the whole of maybe the political leadership and the ones that are in charge of regulations, why would somebody sell products, beauty products in Backstreet? Where are we who are supposed to take charge? We need to actually come out and educate, especially the young generation. And when we do it, I believe everybody will be walking around with high self-esteem. We don't have to wait until you struggle so much in adulthood. We want you to know it from when you're very young. And the faith-based organizations, there is power in empowering the soul. That part of us that is not visible. When it is empowered, by the way, nothing can bring you down. So I would actually also go out to the faith-based institutions to come out bigger and louder and build, especially the children in madrasa, Sunday school, and wherever else in the faith-based institutions.
Okay, thank you, Dr. for that. Melvin?
I think, well, media always will get a bad rap, but the most important thing is that the conversation is hard. I think it's interesting that we have this conversation, and people within media can see whether inadvertently there are some things that can be changed, whether even if it's as an industry a campaign is done that allows for people to see that this is an issue that needs conversation. But as a whole, I don't think the industry is responsible for a lot of how society is thinking. I think media is just sometimes a tool that is used to see what we are actually are as a society.
A reflection or a mirror.
A reflection of who we really are. And sometimes we have to ask ourselves hard questions so that there's progress and change. So I think the conversation should continue.
Do you think there and then I know this was a parting shot, do you think there should be an intervention where sectors in this country decide to intentionally change the way they've been operating in the past, if that's how they've been operating in the past? Like, we don't have their representatives here to speak. And it goes beyond media and advertising.
Which sectors would you be talking about?
I mean, some would say that, for example, a lot of customer service, companies that have customer service offices also would prefer to hire a certain looking type of woman or man, for example. So this is a much wider discussion than the one that we've had here today.
Yes, that's true. In essence, and a lot of that is sometimes driven by marketing or how communication strategists like myself have put in strategies that say a lighter person feels friendlier or more beautiful when they smile, things like that, the red lipstick. And airlines were very good at doing that in terms of how they perceived or created this notion of the airline hostess. It was all about beauty and curated beauty. So I think there's a point where as a continent we can look and say we are defining beauty as this. And as an industry, we can decide to say, let's define what our beauty is.
Should that decision happen now?
I think that decision it needs to happen.
It needs to happen.
So, but what I would not agree to is say that the industry has pushed the agenda.
Okay, that is what you've spoken out against, and that's come out quite strongly here today. Joanne, I'll give you a chance to have a final shot, parting shot for us.
So a lot has been said, so I wouldn't belabor the point. But if I was born in 1900, I would be a field slave because of my complexion. Is there any difference with a person who's born in 2010 or 1985? There's none.
Well, there's a constitution, and a lot has changed.
I mean, in terms of
colorism,
the reason why I would be a field slave is because I was the person who would do the hard labor. You, Wahiga, perhaps would be a house slave, or maybe a corridor slave.
That's debatable.
You're not light enough. Maybe a corridor slave. But my point is this: we must continue to have this conversation, because colorism is an issue even in a black country like ours and in a black continent like ours. And I always give this example, and I now sound like a broken record, but if you were 90 years old when Barack Obama became president of the United States of America, you would not be a fool to think that the office of the president in that country is a preserve of white men, because
that's what
the 90 years you only saw white men. Can we change that narrative now? Can we change the narrative in Kenya and in Africa, where as a girl growing up I can actually see different varieties of beauty, because beauty is truly variety, you know? And for all the girls who are watching, I don't know which camera I should look at, but if you're dark skinned, if you're chocolate, you're black, by the way, is so amazingly beautiful. Don't let media, don't let advertisers
don't point fingers,
tell you otherwise. But yeah, so your black is beautiful.